So as 2023 is coming to an end and we're getting close to 2024, is this Canon M50 still worth it? Greetings all, welcome back. Now, do a bit of a review on the M50 as we get close to the end of 2023 and into 2024. Is this camera still gonna cut it? What's all its flaws? It does have some. And what are its strong points? Now, I've had to dig out and set up some of my older equipment that I used to use because yeah, I use the M50 for recording quite a lot of my actual videos. So let's go over a few little specs for this little camera to start with. It has a 24.1 megapixel CMOS sensor, and as it's APS-C, that is cropped to Canon's 1.6. The recording capability of this camera, which even though it states is a 4K camera, yes, it can record in 4K. I'll discuss the few little issues with that in a moment. But at 1080p, you can either do 24, 30 or 60 frames per second. At 720p, that's either 60 or 120. Who still records in 720p nowadays? And at 4K you can record at 24 frames per second. So onto the ports of the camera. On the left side you have the mic port. On the right side you have micro USB and the mini HDMI. On top we have the electronic viewfinder, which the little sensor on the side can be a little bit of a pain. So I've got a link in the description below on how you can change that from switching between the viewfinder and the live view automatically. We can assign that to a button and do it manually. I'll leave a link to that one below. On the top we have the hot shoe mount. And a nice built-in flash, which, the same as any camera, is why would you use the built-in flash? It has a fully articulated touch screen, which is really handy, and lots of buttons as well, for which you can to some extent reassign these to do other functions. And at the bottom is the battery compartment, as well as the memory card slot. Now for me, I'm going to say one of the biggest flaws with the M50 is the battery life itself. Even though if you check on Canon's website where it states that you can actually take around 305 shots, I have no idea where they have got this from, because the battery runs out, especially when using live view, way before. So my advice for you for this one would be to buy a whole load of new batteries to take with you, because you don't really want to run out while you're out and about. But having said that, when you're out you should be able to get around about an hour and a half of 4K videos. But the battery in this case is not the problem, because you are limited to only 30 minutes of record time. Actually, no, that's 1 second less, because you can actually only record 29 minutes and 59 seconds. But beats me what Canon do this, it really does. There are some improvements on the Mark II, but not really that many that's going to make too much of a difference. The battery life has been improved slightly. Other than that, it's pretty much the same. But the one major advantage of this camera is Canon's dual pixel autofocus, which I'm not going to go into technical details of how it actually works, but this feature, which is pretty standard now on all of Canon's cameras, it does make this a feature that is worth considering. Although when you switch the camera into 4K video mode, unfortunately the dual pixel autofocus gets disabled and you're back to the normal contrast autofocus, which, let's face it, compared to the dual pixel is not good. Some of the features that I actually do like about the M50 is the file transfer, where you do not need a cable or anything like this. This can actually be done over Wi-Fi. It is a little bit slower than actually doing it via cable, but that's the same on any of the cameras that you use. And when shooting as well with a high ISO, I wouldn't really recommend going above 3200. At a push, I'd say I'd stop at 16. Another downside is it's not weather sealed, and even though you have the micro USB port on the side, it's for transferring files only, and you can't use it to actually charge your camera. The interface itself is actually pretty easy to use, and if you're quite familiar with Canon's layout, the actual camera itself uses Canon's M mount, even though it's not officially been discontinued. It pretty much has been discontinued because Canon are concentrating more on their new RF lens mount, obviously for the new R range of mirrorless cameras. But I wouldn't worry too much about the actual lenses for this camera, because you can, for pretty much about £70 to £80, buy an adapter so you can use the EF and EFS lenses. So if you actually have a DSLR of Canon's, then you can quite easily use these lenses on the M50. So as I said before, I actually do use this particular camera, the M50, for recording the videos, and I find it actually pretty simple to use. You can either shoot in manual mode or auto, so the camera will do it all for you, or you can actually choose your own aperture, shutter speed and everything on the videos as well, which I actually tend to do because it gives quite a good bit of control, and it's very easy to control the settings just by quite simply touchscreen or this nice little slidey button on the top. Camera itself is only 387 grams, so it is actually pretty light to carry around, and for some it is quite a small camera to hold. You can see probably from the size of my hands, it's not that big, and some people probably might find this is, they want something a little bit bigger, and you can get the frame or the cage for this, which I'll leave a link below in the description or above to a review that a friend of mine has actually done for the cage on the M50. So yeah, check out Mr. Lensman of his review of the cage. So there are a couple of things that I personally do not like about the M50, apart from the battery life. Is the sensor on the viewfinder is very sensitive. So I have done a little tutorial of disabling the automatic switching between the two. So obviously when you put it up, it will switch to the viewfinder. When you take that away, it will turn to the live view. I prefer to do it manually because the amount of times I've gone to do something, put my hand over the shade so I can see what I'm doing, and it changes to the viewfinder. It can be a bit annoying. So with a simple remap of a button, I can now switch between the two depending on what I'm doing. I've left a link below in the description for that one as well, or up above if I remember. And one of the other little problems with this as well is some people find it very tricky to get the digital level to work on the M50. That's an easy fix as well. I'll also leave a link in the description or above for that one as well. that is all I've really got to say about it. Yes, it's a good camera. It's got some real good features, some very powerful features for such a small camera. The price is dropping, and it's dropping quite a lot, but that's just because of the newer range that Canon are putting out there. It does have its flaws, and I think some of the flaws are not really what your beginner photographers or certain photographers are not really going to worry too much about, like whether it's not weather sealed and things like this, because it's, you know, I don't go out doing photography in the rain and that anyway. As you all know if you watch my videos, I don't like getting wet. So there we have it. Is the M50 worth it in 2024? Yes, it is, but if your budget allows, I would probably look at some alternatives like the R10. Anyway, thanks for joining me on this one. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Until the next time, take care, stay safe, and I will see you soon.